Going to be looking at a call that was made by Dr. Gabilla Fohtung, a South African-based professor, university professor, who formerly was amongst the separatist camp, who today is telling the separatists to change our course and to mobilize for massive registration and voting for 2025, giving some reasons why he thinks that the best course for the separatists to take today is for them to mobilize towards getting the people of the Northwest and Southwest regions register massively with Elecam and voting to choose the persons that are going to decide on their future. And he was supposed to be with us at the beginning, but he's caught in traffic in South Africa. We hope that he gets home and then joins us in the course of our talk tonight. We are in the presence of Dr. Apostle Ambe Valentine, our permanent consultant, who is going to be taking us alongside Dr. Gabila through what is built for tonight. We are glad to have you, Dr. Apostle.
Good evening, Mr. Leo. Good evening, Cameroonians, and good evening, viewers of Prime Hour. Yeah, back to the crisis in the Northwest and the Southwest. Dr. Gabila writes that all separatists should think of using a democratic approach to the crisis this time around to solve the problem, which is, I think, I am 100% in support of what he submitted, and I believe so much that if we take this approach and strategically operate, I think we're going to have a better Cameroon. Errors have been made, a lot of mistakes have been made, and I think we have to bury the hatchets and put all the errors in the past and be able to look forward. We've had other communities in the world, nations in the world, who've attempted also to separate through the gun. It did not go through. They had to come back on the table, negotiate, and then those pressure groups and all rebel groups became political parties that stood for elections and then contested, and they have their place in the parliament, they have their place in the Senate, where they make laws that govern the entire society for the well-being of each and everyone. So I think Dr. Gabila's call is a call for a reason, it's a call for reflection, it's a call for us to meditate. Let's not put anger, emotions, and feelings into these. Let's reason. Because no matter how much speed you have, if you are going towards the wrong direction, you are sincerely wrong. I think it's important for us to also consider the fact that we might have done things out of emotion, feelings, and sentiment. It's time for us to put emotions and feelings aside and use our minds to reason. Frustration begins when emotions override reason.
Okay. Yes, I was going to ask Doctor this. While we wait for him to join us, I'll start by asking you the same question. Are you surprised that Dr. Gabilla Fohtung, who some years back said that, okay, the best option to take was separation, that is the independence, and today he's saying that the best way to go is elections 2025?
I'm not surprised.
Okay.
I'm not surprised because any educated individual who jumped into this crisis, I believe they jumped out of emotions and feelings and sentiments.
Okay.
They didn't use the academic knowledge that they had gathered for years to enter into the crisis. There was that burning bitterness because most of them also were individuals in the country who got degrees expecting to get some kind of juicy job, but the system frustrated them. So when they left the country, they left with that bitterness and anger, thinking that they were not well treated. But you see, the crisis came up. It was in their place to sit down, use the academic understanding to judge things before taking steps towards. But out of emotions and feelings, everybody was dragged into the crisis. And I think any educated individual is supposed to come to a point in his or her life that you have to go back to the drawing board and ask yourself some sincere questions. For 7 years running, how beneficial has this thing been to us, to our children, to our community, and to the country we are fighting to obtain? How has it been of benefit? I'm sure he must have had a reflection with himself, sat down, raising things out, because to be sincere, anybody who holds on to principles and refuses to think rationally, because rational thinking is analytical thinking. You analyze the situation, you judge from your conscience, you know where you missed it, because you cannot be 100% perfect. You know where you missed it. It is important for you to make a U-turn no matter how far you have gone the wrong way. make a U-turn and take the right way than to insist on going the wrong way when you know you never arrive at your destination. And I think Professor Gabila, as a professor of economics from the University, Northwest University of Potchefstroom in South Africa, has sat down as an economist, rationally put things in front of him, and then realized that some errors were made in the past that he is trying to correct right now. And I think he's on the right track.
He says he sends this letter to the separatists through Mark Barretta.
Yes.
And he says that, Bosco, what have we learned from the last 8 years and previous elections?
Good. Yeah. Good. Exactly.
Can you read his mind? Yeah.
Yes. For what I said earlier is already what you are reading from the letter, because he must have sat down for the past 8 years, Mr. Liu. Let us do economic, social, spiritual, educational, technological analysis of the crisis from the past 8 years till today. What benefits, what gains, what losses? That is business. If you want to analyze the crisis, because they were fighting to gain something, and it is a business they engage into. But that business has given people more losses than gain. For instance, Mr. Leo, nobody invests in a business expecting the losses, but losses comes because of inadequate knowledge, improper understanding of how the business operates. So let's consider the war in the restive region of the North and the Southwest as a business that the people invested into. Look at the outcome they've gotten in return. The outcome they've gotten in return is that the economy of the system has collapsed. Human lives are gone, and they are still going. We just saw a video of one of the generals in India who was wiped out this afternoon. That is still adding to the number of persons we have buried so far. Innocent persons who were not even part of the crisis, they have been caught across. They have been caught also in the crossfire. If you look at it educationally, we have lost so many things. Years of education wasted. Greater and better institutions of operating in North and Southwest, they have been transferred to this part of the country. Excellent teachers that taught us in O levels, A levels in the Southwest, we all saw them moved over this way into institutions here. So much so that children in the Southwest did not have those excellent teachers that we had, like about in history, material in economics. We did not have them anymore here because they have all moved over this way. That is to let you understand that that was a major deficiency. Southwest and Northwest was a hub of education in Cameroon. Because I tell you, Mr. Liu, if you fail ordinary levels in other schools, they will send you to Bamenda. Go there and pass, because there they give DCE. Not giving as if they are doing some kind of force.
They'll send you to the bureaucrats.
Yes, the success, the Lords, the Sacred Heart, the BHS. So these are the things that we carried as pride in this country. And all those things dwindled and dwindled and dwindled. Coming back to the well-being of the people, that community life. That life you live in the Southwest Littoral Center for 10 years, 6 years, 5 years. You go back to the village at the end of the year. The cultural week that used to be in Womb. The cultural used to be in Bafut, where you gather, you dance, annual dances. You do all kinds of poetry and the display of talent and skill. Children will go back home within those 3 months. You feel the power of home. The root, your foundation. Those feelings are all dead because people can no longer go back. At the end of the year, we see people traveling from Europe and America. They are coming because there are annual festivals at the end of the year where children convene from all parts of the world back to the village to recognize and appreciate their roots. It's no longer there.
Now, but when he says that, Bosco, what have we learned from the last 80 years and from previous elections? I'm sure he's saying that we have opted not to go for elections, but elections end up holding.
Yes.
We have never succeeded to stop elections.
So
what would be the essence of wanting to stop this one when elections will still hold?
That's exactly. I was trying to point out what they learned within the crisis and then the effect of the elections. Even political parties got angry in this nation, boycotted elections. It did not stop the elections. The elections still went on smoothly, and people were still elected into offices. Some of the parties even regretted later why they boycotted those elections. Because if I thought the municipal and the state elections that took place around the 90s, if the SDF was fully involved, we would not have had an outweighing parliament where the majority...
They boycotted, I'm sure, 96, yeah.
Yes. The majority of the parliament is the ruling party. That was supposed to be their time to also take a lot of the constituencies and equally grasp a lot of municipalities. But unfortunately, they boycotted. We have had the case of MRC also that boycotted elections, and they're regretting it today. Now they are not calling everyone to go out for elections. In 2018, they boycotted elections. What benefit is that? You boycott elections or you don't boycott elections, elections will still hold. There are many political parties that will participate. It is not your political party that makes elections sweet or not sweet. If you participate or you don't participate, it does not change anything. They have taken ignorance and a certain level of ignorance and given the party in power the authority to dominate and influence a lot of environments in areas that they were supposed to be the ones to dominate those areas. So I think even if we don't participate in elections, elections will still hold. So people sit down and say there's no need contesting for elections, that you already know the result. It is because you did not contest, that's why you gave the result to somebody else. If at all you contested, you would have known your place in that election. Because
I hope Dr. Gabila joins us here. I want to read what he wrote. He says, finally, guerrilla tactics have proven not to stop elections in the last 80 years. Soldiers will be deployed to a few polling stations heavily armed, justified by a threat, because you see people are not should not go out now. So the soldiers are going to be there based on the current electoral register in polling stations heavily armed, justified by a threat of disruption, and people and soldiers will be ferried in to vote based on current electoral register in Bamenda, like Limbe, Boya, will end up with the representatives that Yaoundé has handpicked, including the mayors and councillors.
Of course, Mr. Leo, you and I know the crisis helped to paralyze the SDF. That one is certain. The SDF lost a lot of councils, lost a lot of constituencies as a result of this crisis. There were even SDF militants who attempted to go and vote during the elections, and they were arrested and beaten. Meanwhile, the ruling party's militants went and voted in some places in the northern and southwest and grasped all the seats. You and I know when the SDF was still active, there was no way in the northwest and in the southwest the ruling party could gain ground in certain communities. You and I know that SDF control Kuma 1, 2, 3, but that's not the case today. SDF control Mamenda, but that's not the case today. SDF control Batibo Bali, that's not the case today. Because of the crisis, it has even it has even paved the way now for the ruling party to gain ground, because the military are the ones controlling the police station, which is first of all it is a wrong approach. The military are not the ones to control the police stations. We have delegates supposed to represent political parties to control the police stations. But because of the threats that came from the separatists, people were afraid to go. Even the delegates were afraid to go. SDF delegates were afraid to go. So the military people were the ones to man the police stations, thereby giving an upper hand. How do you expect that the military, the one manning police stations, you expect that party to win? No political party has to win that kind of environment. Because even the delegates who were supposed to go and stand there and observe the elections and make sure that the elections are free and fair, they were not there also to defend it. Why? Because of the threats of the separatists. And all this thing has helped also to shape this country the way it is right now. So much so that the legislative and municipal election that used to be a place of contest has finally been drifted and pushed into the hand of a particular political party. This is not how politics was at the level of legislation. Let's consider the fact that the presidential position had been held for many years, but the legislative and the municipal elections were competitive. This year you have an SDF mayor in Tiko, the next year you have a CPDM mayor. That's competitive. But for some time now we have consistent CPDM mayors in Tiko, to let you understand that the fear of the separatists is the reason why militants don't go out to vote, and also delegates don't also go to observe election in the polling stations. Because you can't come and threaten a military man who is as armed as you are. But you can threaten somebody who has no bullet, who has no bulletproof, who has no gun to defend himself. So who doesn't want to protect himself? By that threats and the intimidation, it has pushed most of the persons to run away from the polling stations, and it has also helped to shape the elections to be drifted towards a particular direction. So let us consider the effect of the crisis, both on the electoral aspect, economic aspect, social aspect. In terms of education, you will realize that if you put it on a scale, it's totally 0 on 10.
Yeah, but see, what he's also wanting to ask is, do we have capacity to stop elections? Do you have what it takes to effectively stop elections? Because it's going to just sound like we make declarations that elections will not hold, like they talked of the Nations Cup.
Of course.
We have the Female Nations Cup that took place in Limbe, and the male, the real one that also took place, and the mountain race. We just declared that, okay, this will not happen, but it end up happening. Why not take advantage of it and maybe position some persons that are speaking your language? That is what Dr. Gabila is saying.
The question we should be asking is that which of the events within these two regions that used to take place has been stopped? Because we spoke about there will be no Nations Cup. Nations Cups were held successfully. There will be no mountain race. All the mountain races have taken place, even in the heat of the crisis. There will be no elections. Elections were held in these environments. So how do you explain that? The time we knew that there was no 20th May, it was because of the COVID-19. After the COVID-19, 20th May has come back full force. 11 February is still taking place successfully. Now, which of the events have you successfully stopped? The fear is that you frighten the masses, they go home, while those who have the protective elements take advantage of the open field to carry out their activities. So it has helped to damage a lot of things in almost every area. And I think for someone like Dr. Gabila to come back and call upon fellow separatists to see the need to use a democratic approach to solve the problem is only a clear indication that it's not a single way to use to catch a rat. You have many ways to catch a rat. In other words, we have studied from other crises also across the globe. When Ambe became the president or prime minister of Ethiopia, there was a division in the entire nation. We had different pressure groups. We had different rebellious groups that were fighting against their existence. What did he do? He told all those rebel groups to form and become political parties to contest, because the democratic approach to solving problems is the most credible that has been proven over years. It may delay, but time will prove it to be very credible. Look at the case of Senegal. They thought that Macky Sall was to stay there forever. But you see, democratically, the people are unanimously kicked. And it will shock you, Mr. Leo, for the very first time in Cameroon, in this month of April, elections registration register has recorded 7.something million voters, people who have registered for votes this April. It tells you that by the month of August, which is the date limit, we must have at least 10 million persons. This is something that has never happened in Cameroon. It means there is a kind of sensitization going on that is making everybody to take up their responsibility as citizens of this country. So imagine if we have 10 million voters this year, Mr. Leo, as compared to the 3.5 and 4 million we have always had in the other years when the Christian elections were rigged. Are you sure things will remain the same again? It's not remain the same again. So I think it's time for us to educate the masses to see the need that it is their vote that can decide who will rule the nation and who will not rule the nation.
Okay, Dr. Gabila says, I want elections. Some persons say we are going to fight. What is the future in the fight, and what is the future in the possible vote action? Mr.
Leo, for practically 8 solid years, fighting has been taking place. All we have gotten in return is loss. But if you go back and analyze elections in this country, the ruling party has lost certain positions in the country because of elections. They lost certain councils, they lost certain constituencies because of elections. But since the war started, the government has not lost even a square meter land as a result of the crisis. Tell me where the separatists have fought and they have taken full control, where you don't have any government activity taking place there. But there are places where opposition party have seized control from the government and they are the one running those councils and constituencies.
Like in Young Ekele, in Ezeka, where
PCRN is in charge, which means the government in power can still be displaced through taking over territories because it becomes legitimate through the voters registration campaign. We can still engage voters to seize communities. That is a legitimate way of taking communities. Now let's use the issue of the gun. We took the gun in certain communities and used to fight and take power, which is one of the ways people use in the world. But probably it did not work here. Now that it did not work here, it is but certain that it's a time for us to go back to the drawing board. Look at what happened to the FARC rebels in Colombia. They fought for years, many years, and they could not take over certain territories. They have decided to come back as a political party. Now they are legitimately taking those territories as a result of the votes. So we think that it is important for them also to listen to the voice of reason that is coming through Professor Gabila, that it's time for all of them to go back to the drawing board and check that, okay, if at all we engage this principle and it did not work, what other principle do we think? I'm telling you, Mr. Leo, there is nobody who goes into a war without plan B, plan C, plan D. What is a plan B if the war fails? What is a plan C if the war fails? Because there's definitely supposed to be a plan B for a successful businessman that wants to succeed. You must have plan A, plan B, plan C. So if plan A did not work, let's engage into plan B. How do we engage plan B? The plan B now is to go through the electoral process and engage the people and go for voters campaign motivation and push the people to make sure that they can use the voters card and seize those communities where they think they really need to have control over.
Okay, we are told Dr. Gabila is connected. Good evening, Doctor. We're glad to have you on Prime Hour once again.
Thank you so much, Mr. Leo. Good evening to you, good evening to the viewers, and good evening to my most esteemed friend, Apostle Ambe, in the studio. Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to join on my Media Prime and just to share with the good work that you are doing on the sport.
Okay, I will ask you, you asked a question to Bosco, that is Mark Barretta. You say, Bosco, what have we learned from the last 80 years and from previous elections? What were you trying to tell him by that question?
Well, I think I caught the last tail of Apostle Ambe's intervention to say that leadership has the responsibility to assess strategy, irrespective of the well-meaning nature of your intentions. When you embark upon a venture, you have the responsibility to do an assessment in the course of whatever objective you set for yourself. That's why most projects have midterm evaluations, have final evaluations, to try and ascertain whether the objectives that you set for yourself at the beginning of the process, your objectives are being met. Now, with respect to the specific message to Mark Barretta, it's a question of, it's been 8 years, soon to be 8 years, since what the objective that they set for themselves started. Isn't it about time they do an evaluation to see whether they are attaining the objectives? And by objectives, in the most broadly defined sense here, it would be simply improving the welfare of the people that they are supposed to be fighting for. And
go on, please. Hello, Doctor.
Realize what the material conditions are. Yes.
You are on.
We'll come to the conclusion that, can you hear me?
Yes. Go on. You are live.
Yeah. Yes, anybody who looks at where we are at the moment as a collective people coming from those two affected regions would know that it is time for a change of strategy. Time for change of strategy because they would admit the struggle has lost steam, the struggle, quote unquote, has lost steam. The people that they're supposed to be fighting for are being victimized more than anything else. The improvement in the life and the well-being of the people that was the initial reason for the discontent in the first place is not evident. And there's nothing that they're doing currently that suggests that there's going to be an improvement tomorrow. So there are all the signs, all the handwriting on the walls. I don't need to be the one to give them a justification to say that everything that is around is shouting very loud. So to say it's time for a change of strategy for all those who are involved. Now, for domestic actors and for people who have opted for a conservation of the nation in its current format and have decided to fight from within, elections and participation through elections is the legitimate way of expressing their views about governance and their experience in governance. And my message to them was, give this a chance. Give this a chance. And I gave two principal justifications. Give it a chance because at the end of the day, war strategists, conflict resolution experts will tell you, when it comes to a process of resolution of conflict, it has to come through consultation of the people through service institutions, some sort of citizens' participation that determines the way forward. In English, it would mean there would have to be a bill that will have to be passed through Parliament. For those who aspire for it and legalized, that legitimization and legalization will have to come with the existing institutions. So Parliament will have to pass a bill that says, as Cameroonians, we have now agreed to change the form of the state. And whenever they get to that point, if at all they get to that point, it would have to be the same parliamentarians that they are fighting not to make that decision. The same argument can be made for mayors and councillors that elect senators. So if you study the political system in Cameroon, you will understand that it only begs to logic for any person who is interested in improving the welfare of the people of any segment of Cameroon to say that it would be to the advantage of the people to participate in a process that gets them to speak and become their voices. That was the message I was sending to Mark Barretta. I say, Mark, listen, examine this thing critically. Imagine a situation where you have Penn Terence or Mancho BBC as mayor in Bamenda. And for the sake of the argument, imagine, I don't know.
Yeah, go on, go on.
That's a debate for another day. But imagine a situation where you have an Apostle Ambe, a Fabrice Leonard, a Kawala, an Akobala, you know, a Kum Leonard, that stands up for elections and says, I want to be the councillor of my council, I want to be the mayor of Bamenda, I want to be the elected parliamentarian, I want to be the...
Okay, we have...
Instead of disrupting the process, change the game on its head, confuse the people that are hoping that it will come in one direction, and change the internal conversation to say, let us guard this process and make sure that the process selects people that we can hold accountable. I would rather we come up with a process that says, let us determine amongst ourselves who we want to be the mayor of Limbe, who we want to be the mayor of Kumba, who we want to be the mayor of Boya, who want to be the mayor or the representative at the level of Muyuka, so that the people of Muyuka will change the conversation that says, instead of not being a part of the process, we become a part of the process, we register massively, we go and we defend our votes, we make sure that the elections are not rigged, we participate in selecting someone that we can hold accountable. It's not going to solve all the problems that we have. There's going to be part of the solution, because the people who are currently managing the affairs of our people have access to state resources, public resources, taxpayers' money to solve practical problems, to run hospitals, to run the educational system, to build roads, to clean up the streets, to take care of local markets, to build farm-to-market roads. And we can start with small, meaningful change by mobilizing within our communities to hand that responsibility to people that are going to be accountable to us. It's a window of opportunity. It does not solve all of our problems, but it gives us an opportunity to be able to turn to the people with everything that has happened in the last 8 years, to start having leaders that come up to occupy those positions in little corners to start effecting practical change. So that we do not just hope for change as an abstract concept that's supposed to be far off and imaginary. We see that change in little baby steps by the changes that we bring about at the level of the council, at the level of the municipality, by the change that we bring about at the level of people who send to parliament, by the change we bring about at the level of those who end up as senators. And Apostle Ambe is going to bear me witness, and that if we do not get the right councillors at this time, we have no influence about who becomes senator. And then we want to go and arrest, for the sake of the argument, Regina Mundi, and say you're a senator of the Northwest. Why are you not speaking about an issue? Now, instead of waiting to arrest Regina Mundi or her equivalent in the next couple of years, send Ambe a Valentine now, while you have the opportunity. Send Fabrice Leonard now, you know, send Jan Dennis now, send Kawala now, send Agobala now, to go and be that parliamentarian, and to go and be that mayor, and to go and be that senator, so that when Agobala, who has been consistently speaking for the people, has an opportunity to end up as a senator, then you can say, Mr. Agobala, we know your history, we know your background, we know what you have stood for. This is what he is. As a people, we have given you the mandate to go and say the same things in Senate, to go and say the same things in Parliament, and then you can hold him accountable. The process of disrupting the elections, we have had. It does not stop the elections from holding. It does not stop people from being designated. It does not end up giving us the leaders that we want. So what else do we need to be persuaded that we need to have a change of strategy. Mr. Leo.
Okay. Now, we are going to be getting some reactions from out there, but I will keep reading his letter. It says, it is a better strategy to support a presidential candidate that is speaking for Anglophones, and a much more superior strategy to support local candidates that become local councillors. Isn't it time also to start identifying persons who can make a difference from amongst the people on ground?
Yeah, Mr. Leo, I think the challenge we earlier had was that the people who stood for the people was not the choice of the people. Because if you look at critically, the people that the Anglophones are gunning and yearning for now to be their leaders are not the ones who told people to carry gun for them. And this is where we are right now. And I think the Anglophone masses, they know who they need, and they actually know who can lead them at this moment in time. And if at all we are rational in our thoughts, it is important for us to start thinking the people who can properly represent us. These are persons whom have gained the attention of the masses within the country, and they were not part of the bloodshed. They have also stood within the period of the crisis and have spoken truth to power and spoken truth to also the separatists. These are persons also who were working for the interests of the common man. And I think they have that legitimacy to stand in for elections, and they will still go with the same truth they spoke within that period, not taking side, confronting the government where it was wrong and confronting the separatists where they were wrong in order to protect the interests of the people. Not the ones that have taken extremes. Because you cannot be a leader of a people when you have taken extremes. That extreme is that you are not willing to hear from those who do not believe in your philosophy. The extreme is that I am a separatist at this end. And anybody who does not speak in line with this, your hand is either chopped off or your head is chopped off. There were persons who stood in the middle and they told government, here you are wrong, separatists here you are wrong. That means these people are flexible and they are willing to accommodate and associate with every class of human being. And that's a true quality of a leader. Somebody who is able to accommodate, interact, and relate with all categories of people. Not that you maintain an extreme, that if somebody does not come to your extreme, the person becomes an automatic enemy. We've been in the crisis. We've been in the middle of the crisis, the heat of the crisis. We were on this panel talking issues concerning the crisis. We confronted the separatists where they were wrong. We confronted government where government was wrong. That tells you our defense was for the common man. This is a time right now for those who have been within the crisis to look at the people and say, okay, you were the ones that stood for us, the common man. Because the purpose of every politician is to defend the interests of the common man and also to make the nation advance. All what we gave as council was to defend the common man and equally to also defend the interests of the nation as a whole. These are the kind of persons we need to send to a place who obtain immunity as parliamentarians and senators and mayors who have the right to make decisions as far as the law of the nation is concerned. These are the kind of people we have to look in the midst of the crisis and say, okay, in the midst of the crisis, we didn't see you as a separatist, we didn't see you as a pro-government, we saw you as somebody who was interested in the well-being of the country. You spoke peace, you spoke serenity, you spoke equity, you spoke justice, you spoke the kind of the language of the people, and you were there also to protect the interest of the common man. We now realize that you have interests of the nation at heart. You are not interested in a camp, because what we are facing in this country is that we are raising people who are supporting camps. We are not raising people who are supporting nations. The nation. Somebody will vote someone in CPDM because the person is in a camp, but they should vote people who are interested in the nation Cameroon. We are looking for nation builders, not political party leaders. We are looking for nation builders, not separatists. We are looking for nation builders, and the nation builders are people who have been in the middle against the extremes of the government and against the extremes of the separatists. These are the people you are supposed to handpick in the midst of the crisis and say, okay, the legitimacy you're supposed to have is to become a parliamentarian or a senator for you to air out your views effectively. Definitely, you have to look for a political party, join, and then stand as a candidate, because we know from the time you have been speaking, you have been consistent, and you have not taken side on any particular position. So it definitely means that you are standing for the interests of the nation. I think if we stop voting people who are defending parties and those who are defending factions and start defending or voting those who are defending the nation, we're going to have better leaders tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, but within this 8 years, Can the people readily say these are the persons that can represent us?
They know.
Going by this experience I've lived, yeah.
You did a random stuff here on a random media check here the last time. The people could tell you. They know whom they have been following for the past 7 to 8 years. They know the persons who have spoken truth to both the separatists and to the government. These are people who are working for the interests of the nation and the common man. Because I think power is given to secure the man who has no power. Power is given to secure the interests of the common man. Because those who have power need no security. But unfortunately in our nation, those who have power are the ones who are secured, while the common man is bashed. I think those who are called to receive power are the ones who have to protect the interests of the common man. And you realize that there are persons in this nation that in the midst of this crisis that have been speaking on behalf of the common man and also speaking on behalf of the nation. I think nation building should not be focused on partisan politics. Nation building should not be focused on factions or particular groups. It should be for the interest of the entire nation as a whole. And people are here who want to see Grand North grow, East grow, Ebolowa grow. Not people want to see only Southwest grow. No people want to see only CPDM grow. No people want to see only SDF grow. There are people who want to see the entire nation grow, because a successful leader is a man that develops the entire nation, not develop a particular sector or a particular party. Now, persons will join a political party because the party has the opportunity to give them their own share of the national cake. Such a person will say, let me eat and the rest can die. That's not leadership. Leadership is when you are interested in the well-being of almost everybody in the nation, from the high class, the middle class, and the lower class. And especially the lower class, because the power given to you is to protect him that has no power, not to protect him that has power.
Okay. Now, the population also, they for 8-7 years are reticent. They get what the separatists are saying. They get what the SDF is saying, what the CPDM is saying. How do you convince them to move along the lines of what Dr. Gabila is saying? It
is very possible. It is very possible. The issue is the people that the masses need, they know. But it's rather unfortunate. The legitimate way for those persons they need to climb to the place of power is through party politics, partisan politics. But now, unfortunately, most of the persons who have been speaking truth and justice are not in these political parties. That's how the constitution states. If I have to run tomorrow for an office in this nation, I cannot run as an independent candidate. I have to join a political party. That makes me now go under partisan politics. But if there was an opportunity for me to be elected into an office, that will not make me control or being controlled by a certain political party based on ethics and protocols of that party. It gives me the authority to see air in my mind. But if you go under a political party, they will shut your mouth and tell you are going against the party politics. Why is the election? Why is the politics of this nation not flexible in such a way that independent candidates can stand? I was in the UK. I met a parliamentarian from Ethiopia. He said he was an independent candidate in his constituency and he won the elections, and he's not in any political party. Because of that, it gave him the fortitude and the capacity to speak when it is needed. But when you go under a certain political party, you come up here to address issues that concerns the nation, they will call you and say, hey, you are a party member, and these are not the protocols of the party, these are not the ethics of the party. That shuts your mouth. It doesn't make you a voice to the voiceless anymore. It doesn't give you the opportunity to express your mind freely. Like now I can speak freely because I'm not under any pressure of any political party. I'm not following any ethics or any protocol. But it may shock you that the persons who want somebody to stand on their behalf, they may need me who is not in a political party. And if I join that party, they won't like me again because I won't be speaking the way I'm speaking.
Okay, Doctor, somebody has a question for you, though he did not give his name. He said, good evening, Mr. Liu. I have a question regarding what the doctor is saying. When Wiba was at the parliament, who listened to him? But I'm sure you also wrote something in the letter to address to Mark Barretta. Say, think of 20 Wibas in parliament in Yaoundé. Is that a direct response to what the worry expressed by this televiewer?
Exactly the point, Mr. Liu. In the genesis and the beginning of the crisis, the one of the problems they had with the SDF party, and late John Frunzi, may so rest in peace, engaged robustly with some of our brothers that held that view, who were reminiscent of the days in Enugu when our forefathers left the parliament in Enugu and withdrew and ceded the creation of the Southern Cameroonian state. And they made the argument that they wanted the SDF to be able to speak for and put the issues on the table. And the argument of Chairman Fundi at the time was that the SDF is not an Anglophone party, it's a national party. The SDF cannot withdraw itself from parliament because it has to the obligation within itself to take into account its own party political realities in order to be able to respond to what demand was displaced from them. Now, I am making the argument, if you have people that can speak on behalf and for the Anglophone cause, now is the time to send them to parliament. Do not wait for a party that has its own prerogatives to organize its elections and get its members to parliament, and then you try to impose an agenda on them. There are many political parties that are very vocal on the Anglophone question and on a range of issues that affect the country for that matter. Now is the time for you to be able to. Now, so my argument is simple. Rather than making it a question of no participation, no engagement, and waiting for the people who end up there to guilt-trip them and try and get a conscience load to say that you're not speaking for your people, this is an opportunity to come up with a framework within an Anglophone conversation and all engagement among ourselves to say, who are those who are prepared? Which political platform is committing itself to speak on our behalf? And what guarantees can they give that they are going to get to parliament and will put our issues on the table? And when I talk about political parties that commit to speak on our behalf, I need to say, Mr. Leo, that I'm not talking about here exclusively about Anglophone-led parties or parties from even people like Maurice Kamto of MRC and all the other political parties that are participating in the process, that we should make the Anglophone problem, quote unquote, and issues from the Anglophone region a principal issue determining participation in parliament, is preempting the need to go and force people with a different agenda who have campaigned on a different agenda and secured parliamentary seats on a different agenda to take on your agenda or my agenda. If we want to be organized as a people, this is a time agenda setting. This is a time to define and identify people who are going to carry the issues of the nation. And we believe that we have a burning issue. Let's find people that are going to represent that burning issue in parliament. And yes, like I said to Mark Barretta, Weber was one person. Now look at the impact of Weber as one individual that had on the rest of the crisis. This is a time to vote 20, 30, 40 Webers into parliament with legitimate participation, with representation from the people. It's a very simple change of course. We need to have an all-Anglophone conversation that says, who do you want to send to parliament? Let's send Dr. Nick Ngwanyam. Let's convince Barrister Nico Hale. Let's convince Eric Chinji. Let's find people who have the legitimacy and the long track record. Apostle Ambe there in the studio, who have the legitimacy and long track record to speak for our issues. And let us, as a people, assemble around those people to say, we are in the crisis, we have situations, we have lots of problems. We are not going to solve all of those problems in one day, but for the time being, we are about to select representatives that would represent our region. These are the people that we want, and this is the money we're giving them. We're sending you there to go and build a career. We're not sending you there to go and make money. We're not sending you there to go and make a name for yourself. We're sending you there to go and speak for us, and to speak for us as a people. And if you can give us guarantee through your elections manifesto, through your track record of having represented the issues of the people, that if given the opportunity, you are going to speak for the people, then I am telling Mark Barretta, and I'm telling the Anglophone community, I'm telling everybody else that speak people to parliament. And not let people campaign on other issues and get to parliament, and then you are trying to capture them and trying to arrest them or trying to abduct them and ask them, why are you an Anglophone or from Anglophone extraction? Are you not raising Anglophone issues? This is a window of opportunity to send 20, 30, 40 Webers to parliament, so that by the time they shut down the one Weber, and permit me to also say, Mr. Leo, our people need to understand that the issue, the immunity, not just diplomatic immunity, but the status of Honorable Weber as a member of parliament of a legitimately constituted state and an arm of the state, it gives him legitimacy of representation, not just domestically, but even internationally. So the people that we are sending to parliament, when they come down to the Pan-African Parliament in South Africa and they decide to put the issue of the marginalization or the ill treatment or the history or whatever range of issues we have as a community on the agenda of the African Union, when they book to see a diplomat in the UN, when they book to see a diplomat in the African Union, when they book to meet another member state, they are coming there as a representative of an arm of the state of Cameroon. Not as an individual that has a beautiful idea about how roses are white and they're supposed to be pink and how he thinks that the country is supposed to be run. Our people have learned, and Mark Barretta knows, that the representation that has come from people that are legitimate representatives of the state on a state-to-state level, the legislative representation that comes from people that have a mandate from the people opens doors. In their practical experience, and they know that this is true when I say this, nobody listens to you when you introduce yourself as someone who derived your mandate from a social media profile that you created for yourself with some idea, whatever, no matter how fine sounding the idea you're selling is. So it resolves the question of legitimacy. Who are you and who are you speaking on? And who gave you the mandate and how did you secure the mandate?
Okay.
The issues are there. We agree on the issues. We agree on the issues. Now we are saying that let us use the established imperfect institutions as they are to designate representatives that would put our issues on the table.
Okay, seemingly we have issues with network. I don't know, but we're coming back to you, Dr. Gabila. Let us listen to Fonfoso, who is Commissuit coordinator, who is coming in from Bomenda, as he shares his thoughts on what youth and women should be doing.
That is occurring in our community. Because of this lack of peace, there is many ghost towns and lockdowns that they are coming. So if we can even decide to say that we reduce the lockdowns and the ghost towns, it also reduce suffering. Just imagine some children will never go back to school. But if we can also decide to say that, okay, we'll allow all schools to government schools, and most of us, our parents are the ones that have built them, they are not functioning. So these are some things which we are looking at that we can begin to talk to ourselves and see how we can change some of this framework. Those people who can influence situations, they should think also so that we don't have a place where people are just enjoying privileges because they are in positions that they have resources and we did not put them there and they are using it the way they want and nobody can talk. We are losing out. So we are suffering in many ways. Grow their small businesses because from their businesses they will live. But the last thing also that we discuss about is the fact that there are no small things they can do in community. That does not need money. Those small things that they can do in community, they can be doing it. Use just to clean the gutter, to make sure that water does not come and blow your house. You can do that so that flood does not occur and then destroy people's crops. In some areas, they drain and all they fill up. Many people are trained their agenda on the streets. We can change this aspect so that we can live a better life. Keep talking in their own community and sharing the topics that we have talked about. Here we have talked about the need that is important for us to participate in different aspects of decision making. They will share in their own secrets. We have talked about the fact that we need to live in peace and work for peace. Everyone will try at his own level to see how you can bring peace with your neighbor, with your community. And in as much as there is a conflict in the country, this conflict was not about civilians. There should still be more discussions with the government. And we are very afraid of the guns. But we also need to find a way of talking with them and let them talk with us so that we can reduce the suffering among all of us.
Okay, thank you very much, Fonfonso, coming in there from Bomenda. The issue now is getting many persons to be more assured and guaranteed. How do you get the population itself to know that, okay, if we continue in fighting in the next 8 years, we may still find ourselves in where we are, and why not muster the courage to choosing those who we feel can represent us, because whether we like it or not, elections will go on, and the mayors and the MPs, the senators are going to still be there.
Mr. Leo, the energy that was put to talk people into this thing, the same energy is needed to talk them out. To be sincere, the people only entered into this thing because they were talked into. There were many persons who knew nothing until they were told their own side of the story. And once they listened to it without having a balance, then they pushed them to enter into the crisis. To be sincere, if we go back on talking people out of this thing and giving facts and figures, clarity, a lot of people will go out. And you don't know what we have been doing on television. A lot of persons have called me that they have backed out of the crisis after listening to us on television. The education continues. This is where the power is, because it was words that pushed them to pick guns. We need to use words to take them out, because that thing also is a mind control. Once you are able to control the minds of people back to see the irrelevance of what they are doing, automatically they will drop fighting. This is the problem. This is what the challenge is. I said in 2007, 2018, I said, the reason why the international community has not bothered stepping into this crisis is simply because the representatives of the people were supposed to be the one to cry, because they have immunity and legitimacy to cry to anybody in the world. Imagine the Northwest and Southwest parliamentarians who don't care the political party they belong to, gathered and then wrote a particular complaint, submitted to either the AU, the UN, or Francophonie, or Commonwealth, and say, we are the representatives of these people, our people are dying, and they are being tortured, they are being maimed, they are being destroyed by the military, and they submitted it to any of these bodies. There would have been a quick response. You can't be crying in a house as a child that your father is quiet, that you expect the people to come and support you. They will not. So the reason why they did not place value is because the persons who were writing to the United Nations, writing to different bodies, were considered as a group of hoodlums who are bringing constituting users in the community. But the people who were supposed to be the one to legitimize the whole struggle were supposed to be the members of parliament representing the constituencies. So imagine tomorrow members are in the parliament and they get up tomorrow and say, okay, we are not comfortable with this. They submit to the UN, submit to this. You will realize there will be a quick response. And this is exactly what we are telling them right now, that please, if you want your voices to be heard, go through the legal way, pass through the ballot box. Tomorrow, if a parliamentarian stands up to speak, a senator stands up to speak, a mayor stands up to speak, who are speaking the same language, there will be a quick response, because these individuals have a certain level of immunity and they are legitimate to address issues concerning people, because a parliamentarian first, a parliamentarian for the nation, and also a representative of his people. And as a representative of people, he has that right to lay complaints concerning the community that he's living in. If the poor have no water, it is the parliamentarian responsibility. If they have no light, they have no healthcare center, it is responsibility. It's the same thing if they are marginalized, maimed, dismembered, harassed, intimidated, and killed. It's the parliamentarian responsibility to write and give the complaint. But none of the persons who rose up to address the issues in those days were either parliamentarians, neither parliamentarians or senators. So you realize that a group of persons from abroad, a group of persons around Cameroon gathered, and none of them were legitimate to bring these challenges up. So it caused the international community to give a blind eye and a deaf ear to whatever was happening. So let's go through the legal process. You cannot give your complaint. Why, like Professor Gabilla said, in 1953, in the Eastern Regional House, it was the parliamentarians that represented the Southern Cameroons that rose up and said, we are not going to be part of this rubbish again, when the lone minister, who was Muna by then, was kicked out of power. So they said they are not going to stand. And when they walked out, it became legitimate, because why? The people who stood up to walk out of that parliament were legitimate individuals that they were recognized both by the Nigerian government and by the British government. Now imagine if some young men from Manfi rose up in those days, then all those fathers who were in that Eastern region has kept quiet. The British government would not have considered anything, because the people who are the representative of the individuals have not laid such a complaint. So it makes no sense. So it is common sense for them to calm down themselves, look at the reasonable persons who have been able to communicate truth and justice, equity in the crisis moment, bring them to the stage and say, okay, these are the persons who want them to represent us. Because the issue is, some people force themselves as representatives of the people. The people did not choose their representative. That's what the problem is. You become very, very excellent as a leader when the people choose you. But when you impose yourself as a leader on the people, and then you impose the protocols that the people have to follow, even if they don't want it, you become a yoke and a burden to the neck of the people. And this is the reason why the crisis turned out to be what it is today, because the people first and foremost did not acknowledge the people who imposed themselves on them as the leaders, one. Number two, they did not unanimously gather and say, these are the people who want to represent us. No. Then you came again because they did not buy your philosophy. You now impose your rugged and brutal system on them, thereby putting fear in their hearts even towards you. The people should be excited to present you as their leader publicly and anywhere, but not the one that they are afraid and they are intimidated to call you their leader. Not that they do it out of conviction and love, but because you are intimidating them.
Now, Dr. Gabila, you've written to Mark Barretta. Did he receive your letter? What was his reaction? Or he has not yet reached out to you?
I haven't. No, he hasn't yet reached out to me. In the classical sense of, you know how it typically goes. You know, you would have people argue, no, we're not part of that nation. No elections in our territory, and so on. So Mark personally has not responded. I hope he's going to respond. He's a very reasonable guy when he has to be. But I think that is symbolic of a specific brand and caliber of leadership within the Anglophone community. We need to understand that we are a very diverse group of people. And we need to understand that we are, in our diversity, we have such different set of incentives that we respond to. And any true leader that comes out of our community as a people need to understand that whatever stands and positions you take needs to factor in that diversity. And the diversity with which we are and has to go into the kinds of people that we speak to represent. We cannot represent or purport to represent or come forward to speak on behalf of people holding just one idea, assuming away the other points of views that do exist. And the most interesting and the most funny thing about this diversity and differences in point of view is that the people whose lives are affected the most are the people who are back home, whose opinions is supposed to be the most sought, the most serious. Mr. Yu, I can tell you that 98% of the people out of the country who are involved is to come back home and have to deal with the daily struggles that the people back home are the most. If the people in the diaspora want to represent and fight on behalf of the people on the ground, we must acknowledge the fact that the people on the ground, their livelihood and their well-being is the priority number one of whatever fight that we have. That is why, at the end of the day, who are going to be local leaders? Who are going to be local councillors? I will not bundle myself out of South Africa and come and go and run for mayor in Bali, a place that I have left away for almost how many years? So whatever it is that I'm fighting for, when it comes to the local government, they change the reality of the local man in the local municipality, in the city in Limbe, in the city in Boya, in the city in Mutengere. The people that live there, among those people, are the people that would ultimately have responsibility of local government and managing the affairs of the people on a daily basis, of water, of light, of electricity, of refuge, of health, of education, of security. The local people that are from the local communities are the people that would make the decisions that would affect the local people. And all we are saying and telling everybody who has a very interesting agenda is that think of the people first and allow and create an opportunity and create an atmosphere for the people with your encouragement, with your endorsement, with you standing down, with you adopting some sort of a ceasefire if you must, for the people to select leaders that will start dealing with the bread and water issues. That would relieve the sufferings of our people in the immediate. To have mayors that are going to keep their lights on, will keep their waters running, will make sure that the schools and the streets are clean, to have councillors that are going to represent, to have regional councillors that are going to select people that are going to eventually become mayors, that will speak on behalf of the people. That ought to be the priority. So the point I'm making is the interest of the people first, the point of view of the people on the ground should be taken into account, and all of us in the diaspora have the responsibility to participate and make it easy for the selection of leaders good leaders, the criteria of whom Apostle Ambe has outlined, that will be able to represent the interests of the people to improve their livelihood. If we cannot do that, then we are hypocrites. Because we essentially started off, or we said we are fighting to improve the livelihood of the people. This is a clear opportunity to make a difference. Before we fly up to the moon and change the color of the moon, let us start by changing the light bulb that shines in our own room. So let us start by affording the people the opportunity to have the leaders of their choice. And let us add our voice to their voices, as we have added our voices as the diaspora in other instances, to make the argument that change is progressive and it's incremental. It's not going to come about in one big bang. Let us appreciate the little changes that we can think about in getting the right mayors, the right councillors into the various positions, in getting the right people into parliament, in getting the right people into Senate. That would be a change that is meaningful, that is possible, that is legitimate, that is legal, and that is constitutional. It is within our reach. Before we wait to persuade the international community that we are the people that we are suffering and we have been marginalized and our history has been stolen and we are not well represented and we are like strangers in our own country and all the other arguments that we have, let us start by showing to our people that we are interested in their well-being. And I think we actually owe it to the people as a diaspora. Because a lot of what has happened on the ground for the last 7-8 years has been the contribution of what the diaspora told them, the people on the ground, was going to happen. So I think that it is actually a debt from the diaspora to the people on the ground to say that in the same way we have mobilized our voices and our resources to be able to do whatever it is we thought was necessary, let us mobilize our voices and our resources at this time to make sure that we support the efforts of the people on the ground to get the right leaders in the right positions, and then we create the conditions to hold them accountable. Mr. Leo.
Okay. He's talking about the issue of what is possible. Should that not be what we should be talking about? What we are able to achieve? Mm-hmm. Should we go chasing what is unattainable?
No. Like we have always sung on this platform, we equally said the last time that if at all people had plan A and plan B and plan C, they would definitely not hold on to what has already failed from all angles. Because if you judge like somebody who is reasonable, considering this crisis right now, it has failed. Yes. And to me, it is just but humility needed for people to obviously come out and say, brothers and sisters, to be sincere, we missed it. We missed it. We thought we could take this approach and find our way to the top, but unfortunately, it didn't work out. We are very sorry, and we are sincerely sorry, and we want things to turn out the other way. And it is important for us to engage a legal process on how to fight for our own rights and privileges in the country. How do we do this right now? We mobilize the masses. We make them understand how much has gone down the drain as a result of the approach we took. Even in business, people invest businesses and lost billions. Why is it that it is not easy for us to accept that the approach that they took initially has failed? Because it takes humility for somebody to acknowledge the fact that I attempted this way and it failed. Now it is what is remaining is no longer war. What is remaining is pride. What is remaining is no longer war. What is remaining is arrogance. What is remaining is no longer war. What is remaining is to tell the world that I am a Spartan. I'd rather die without surrendering. But you see, humility demands that at a certain level, you must acknowledge that you are not sufficient at this level. Everybody comes to that place in his life. Even nations come to that place of their life. And it is important for you to acknowledge at one point that you are not the best. You tried and you failed. People who have failed exams in life did not stop school. Some failed, repeated classes, and still ended up becoming the best students in some years to come. It is important for us to acknowledge this principle that we could have tried something that did not work. And now, let us be bold enough also to tell the public that we have missed it. Let us be humble enough also to acknowledge the fact that we have failed in this area, because we are not supermen. We are also humans like any other human being. And the nation Cameroon also has equally failed in its own way. The acknowledgement of this particular truth is what will cause us to take a U-turn and drive towards the right direction. Now, what is the plan B? What is the solution to this problem? Let us now mobilize our people and see how we can be able to go through the polling station. We go through the polls and see how we can be able to secure our own benefits in the country. These are some of the truths we need to stand up and tell our fellow brothers and sisters. Somebody wrote and said, if the separatists come out and say that people should massively register to vote, you will see what will happen. People will go everywhere. That tells you that there is a fear in the minds of the people that if they go to register to vote, definitely the separatists will come after them. But even if they don't advise them to vote, voting will still take place. And the more we deny the people from voting, the more we enslave people, because they will not have that right to select the kind of candidate they want. Number two, the persons they will need to be in power will not be the one that will be in power. Is it not strange to realize that the people who are fighting in the bush, others are being appointed? You explain that we have now gotten the first minister of secondary education from the English extract because the crisis came, and it did not come from those who fought. We've got the minister of territorial administration because the crisis came, because it did not come from those who fought. So the people are fighting and dying, and those who are instead protecting the nation are being promoted. How is Tico drinking and Kumba is getting drunk? Are you not realizing that certain Anglophones have been privileged to climb in certain positions in this country as a result of the crisis, which did not come from all those who fought the fight? Instead, these are persons who were instead protecting the interests of the regime in question. Yet, Tico is drinking, Tumba is getting drunk. That's where the problem is. So if you think you are fighting, you are hammering people, you are instead fighting and promoting the people you don't like.
Dr. Gabila, I don't know whether he's there. Is he there? Are you there, doctor? Okay, I want us to look at this issue, because many persons will still be writing that no, this is still possible. When you look at, critically speaking, you say it is not attainable. We cannot get to where. What are those signs that tells you that this thing cannot work, but people still believe that somehow, miraculously?
Very excellent question, Mr. Leo. It is but normal for you to sit down and do a critical survey on what used to be and what it is right now.
Okay.
In terms of manpower, we had more soldiers in 2017, more generals, and a population of many, many soldiers. In the heat of the crisis, if you could have such a number of persons who sacrifice themselves also to fight, and you could not attain your goal within that period, is it now that you have soldiers dispersed from one place to another that you are going to achieve that? One. Number two, when the crisis was at its peak, people were contributing finances to push the crisis, but a lot of betrayal, manipulation, and all kinds of thievery has taken place within the finances of the movement that has caused many givers of the movement to drop. The strategic leaders that used to make people clamor for victory, who were the main names and the generals, have all been wiped out. If we had such giant strong men who were bringing glory in those days, they are all wiped out. Is it the few persons who are left right now without any name and all the credibility that you will see them? No. In addition to that, look at the situation of the present day soldiers. Most of them complain of not even having arms, because people are no longer contributing money to buy arms for them. So if you put all this on ground, kidnappings has increased because the soldiers can't feed themselves. They are left now to kidnap people and collect money from them to feed themselves and remain relevant in the bushes. The masses that used to support them in 2017, 2018, they have kidnapped them, tortured them, maimed them. They have now turned against the same people they claim to have been protecting. How do you explain that with all the disadvantages put on ground, and with all the fights they have fought in all those years, they were not able to occupy particular communities and take full control over them? Schools that they tried to stop, people have resolved in going back to school. The same people that protected the separatists and hid them in bushes are the ones pointing out their hideouts. What is that communicating to us? Is to let you understand that from the support of the masses, financial support, in terms of ammunition, in terms of number, in terms of strategic operation, even in the leadership, there is high-level division and split among all the leaders. There is no synergy. There is no connection among the leaders. So it makes one camp is against the other camp. So much so that the energy that we were supposed to have used to fight as a team, it has been dispersed and dismantled. So if you put all these factors together on ground, you will realize the amount of debt that were registered against the military in the 2017-2018, you don't hear military dying anymore. Number 6, the government is prolonging the crisis using the Scotch Earth policy. They will not, it is not who you kill in a war that makes you a winner. It's the capacity and the tenacity to sustain the war till it finishes. And that's where the government has gone and stood. The government has the money to prolong this war for the next 20 years and 30 years. And you will dry up along the line in terms of human resource, financial resource, and ammunition. That is to say, the principle they are applying already right now, government is recruiting the military forces and the police forces almost every year. That is to say, every time they lose a military man, government recruits a new one. But when you lose a soldier, nothing comes back again. These are the things that tell you that if this war is kept to be prolonged for a long time, it's a problem. The other factor is that some of the nations that they take the cue behind, that South Sudan fought and got their independence, South Sudan had external support. The Anglophones are the only people who have not had any external support from any country. And they did not have that support because the foreign countries did not see anything they're going to benefit from them. That's why they did not support them. So you go and compare yourself with South Sudan, who's lasted for 30 years. People were sustained and supported in a crisis like that. This war, I've told you, the case of the Tamil Tigers in Sri Lanka, who fought for 26 years and had no support. The government stretched the war and all their resources dried up. I've given you the example of the Biafran Civil War of 1967 to 1970. They used a Scotch Earth policy by blocking the supply of food and protein in the whole of East. Many people died through malnutrition than that bullet. 100,000 Nigerians died of malnutrition, not the bullet. There are many ways to drain a people and to paralyze them during war. These are the things that I'm seeing practically in front of us. We have studied these things.
Are you saying that there's so much talked about economic sabotage? It's not just, it's rather working against the people?
Economic sabotage, Mr. Leo, for those who don't know, Cameroon GDP increased last year. For those people who don't understand, the GDP of this nation increased last year. Go and ask, don't do your findings. So when you say you are doing economic sabotage, where?
For 8 years.
Where? The economic sabotage is for the poor man in the village who does not have money to send the child in the school in Douala. The economic sabotage is not for the rich man who has packed his children during the crisis and sent to London, sent to Nigeria, and transferred to Douala and Yaoundé. They are going to school. That economic sabotage is for that poor man in Guzan, that poor man in Jikwa, who does not have money to transport the child to come to Douala to go to school. Their education ended at that level. The economic sabotage is that you have decided to destroy the roads going to your own village, that your own people cannot even transport goods from the city to the village to feed the poor who are there. The economic sabotage is that you have stopped the schools from your community where your own children were supposed to have gone there and become responsible individuals tomorrow. What's the economic sabotage? In Douala, people eat 3 times a day. Activities are going on. Billions are rolling into the market and coming out. You go to Douche, people are buying almost every day. So what is the economic sabotage? How has business stopped? Careco just added another aircraft. They are now going to Central African Republic. They are going to Benin. They are going to Brazzaville. They are going to N'Djamena. Is that sabotage? The plane that was flying within Cameroon, Marua, Douala, Yaoundé, and Baboussam is now going to Central African Republic. Is that sabotage? You have sabotaged the poor in the village there. So what are economic sabotage? I don't understand economic sabotage.
Okay, Dr. Gabila, I want you to try to list those things that you took into consideration before taking this decision. When and how did you come to the point that this is not winnable?
Mr. Liu, the struggle for addressing the issues of the Anglophone community has gone through phases. It's obvious for everybody to see that the mass support, the unanimity with which we gathered around the consortium, Gabilla Fohtung, in the very early days. I remember late Ben Muna and late John Frunzi and all the different people that marched in Boya, went up to station in Bamenda. Question of there's an Anglophone problem that needs to be addressed. That has waned. and it's obvious for everybody to see. The enthusiasm with which we mobilized around 2017 to articulate the issues that we felt very strongly about and we felt needed to be addressed. There was unanimity. There was almost, even those who were not vocal among our community agreed on the fact that there were problems that needed to be addressed. Where we are sitting at the moment is the opportunity that hindsight affords us to see what has happened in the last 4, 5, 6, 7 odd years. And the parameters that we need to use of our interventions or of our actions is that our communities are more divided today than they were in 2016, 2017. Our community, in terms of the social fabric, it's more decimated and destroyed than it was in 2016, 2017. And let us face the fact of the quite frankly been afforded 7, 8 years of Amazonian leadership to be able to make a judgment that's statistically, empirically, we have seen the way people have had the possibility of voluntary collections that were made and given to them for a variety of reasons, including collections that were made for prisoners and refugees in Nigeria, and a whole range of mitigating circumstances. I don't want to mention or talk about other issues. Now, there are people who managed, for the sake of the argument, budgets of up to $1 million. They managed $1 million and more, and that money did not resonate to transform the plight of our refugees. That money did not come down to resonate or change the plight of our IDPs on the ground, in whose name that money was collected. And I could go on and on to say that the people have been afforded an opportunity to show what they are capable of, and they have demonstrated, and I'm not speaking on a broad brush, they have demonstrated on a consistent basis that they are not better than what they criticized. They're not better than whom they judged. They're not better than the people that they stood against. And me saying that is not saying that the issues for which they fought were not legitimate. So they have had an opportunity to implement, to apply a strategy and see its effect on the ground. They have had an opportunity in other spheres of being given leadership responsibilities or of appropriating onto themselves leadership responsibilities with the support of our people, and demonstrated what they are going to do with those leadership responsibilities. And I think I join my voice with that of Apostle Ambe to say that humility demands that, notwithstanding how well-meaning your intentions were, you must get to a point where you pause and go back to the drawing board. And I specifically feel that this is that moment where you go. What are some of the kinds of things that need to happen for ourselves moving forward? We need to find the soul of the Anglophone community. We need to find the social cohesion. We need to find ourselves. You know, you yourself in the leg because you are angry with the shape of your leg. Our community is disintegrated. Our brothers and our sisters are languishing in jail. Our people have moved across the Mongo and they are carrying out extensive investments there. Our farms that used to supply all of Central Africa all the way up to Gabon are shut down. Santa, that used to be the competitor of Fumban and all those other places that supplied food to Gabon, as we have run ourselves out of business. We are not supposed to be public platforms if some of these people will afford us the opportunity to have an in-house conversation, to talk to ourselves and say, guys, let's face the facts. Let's not play ostrich politics and bury our head in the sands and hope for some Father Christmas to come somewhere and provide us something that we are dreaming about. We have tried, we have given it our best, it has not produced the results. Let us change course. And I do not know what that change of course means for a whole range of people. My proposition is political participation. My proposition is let us give our people a break. Let us give our people a break. Let's take the pressure off them. Let's take the punishment that we have placed off them. Our intentions were good, but right now our intentions don't matter. The reality of the people that is lived on a daily basis is what is the most pressing thing in the room at the moment. Cameroon is about to prepare for the Third Republic. Cameroon is about to prepare for a transition in power. There's an election that is coming up hold, and if everything is properly organized, we're going to get to the Third Republic. The Anglophone community is not prepared for the Third Republic in any way, shape, or form. We have a lot of people who are mobilizing and are saying the right things, but as a people, the consequences of the Third Republic will be imposed upon us because we do not have a coherent voice. And the reason we don't have a coherent voice because some people feel that because they are holding guns, the shape of their gun has to determine the size of their voice. They feel that because they're holding guns, their voice is it has to be a louder voice. There is no one who is more Anglophone than the other. That's a reality that we need to come to terms with. We are not all supposed to now take up weapons to be heard. We are people who are represented and we recognize by the superiority of our logic, the quality of of our standards as a people, our value system. University of Buea was flooded by people that came from all over the country because UB was a place to be. It represented the pride of the Anglophone community. Our pride was in the values that govern ourselves as a people. We must. And all we're sending as a message to our brothers who are overseas and all those who have different views is that please open your eyes, smell the coffee. The people on the ground are paying a price that is higher than what I think they bargained for, and it's certainly not where we plan we're going to be at this point in time. So take a break. Call for a ceasefire. Go back and reevaluate your strategies. Have a rethink of what it is that you're doing.
But doctor, let me put this to you now. If we must say, doctor, I want to add this to you. If we say we must fight on and we give a damn to elections,
yes. Now,
who are we? I don't know. Who are we depending on? Is it the international community? Is it the firepower or is something miraculous because it says that it's God ordained? How is it winnable as we speak? Can people today still believe that the international...
You mean the elections?
Okay.
I didn't get the question. Just say it again.
My question is, now, if we have to forge on with the fighting, is it winnable? Who are we depending on to provide us with a solution that will grant us independence? Is it the international community that we are depending on? Is it the firepower on ground that is going to grant us what we are fighting for? Or is it the declarations of men of God that is miraculously something is going to happen?
None of the three, Mr. Leo. There is no one in the international community that takes our quest serious. They think we're a bunch of clowns. They think that we are jokes. There's no one, not one person in the international community takes any of our leaders. I don't know what their name is. I don't know what they stand for, what they represent. Seriously. There's no international community anywhere. At the beginning of this crisis, and I've made this argument in the past, we had a window of opportunity when Thabo Mbeki was in the presidency. We had a window of opportunity when Thabo Mbeki was Under Secretary of State. Was in the presidency, and this other ambassador was in Cameroon. We had a window of opportunity because when Thabo Mbeki was Under Secretary of the State Department in the US for Africa, we had in Thabo Mbeki a former Peace Corps that had served as a Peace Corps in Cameroon, had forged relationships with people in our community, had served within the American Embassy in Cameroon, and they essentially had intimate inner knowledge of some of the issues that we were articulating. What did we do with that opportunity? Some of our people gathered around this entity, I think the Center for Dialogue and Negotiation, and they created extremely high-level political, diplomatic connections and invited some of these leaders to come in and speak. You needed to see some of the questions that they ask in the face of this internal. It was frankly extremely embarrassing. And it's not for lack of capacity. So there's no diplomatic community that is coming. As Apostle Ambe has said it, power that can secure us independently. It's a joke. Apostle Ambe told you that the example we led of Somalia, with people who had American government not backing literal, but intellectual and political backing in South Sudan. The people who have fought for 30 years with extensive support, they were organized. They had the support of their external people, and the support that came in from their people internally was coherent. When this struggle started, as Apostle Ambe has said, our people were willing and voluntary. They were open and say, these are our children in the diaspora. They are trying to bring about a solution. They were patient. When they said there was a call for ghost town, people stayed indoors. They were patient. Not until they became victims. Not until people were summarily executed in the middle of market squares in the name of whatever accusation. So we have taken our hands and cancelled whatever positive argument we had to make towards the people we are fighting for, towards the international community. I have a lot of respect for men of God to say that their declarations and their statements concerning a God-ordained struggle that we're going to find independence, I leave that to them and God to go back and tell and hear from the God independence, because it's a God-ordained struggle. I respect them. I'm not going to question what they heard from God. But for everything that we are witnessing, they must go back and hear God probably again. Because it is not what it is that we are seeing, unless the Lord God is telling them that we are going to get deliverance after 430 years like the Israelites had out of Egypt. Having said out of that, my point of emphasis, Mr. Leo, is that we need to find ourselves as a community. We need to find ourselves as a people. And I'm talking about, when I talk about finding ourselves as a people, I'm not excluding anyone out of the pot. There were people who took up positions and were extremely radicalized for one reason or the other. There's some people who stayed moderate. There's some people that stayed inter and fought. It is in our best interest for us to find each other, to say that we have adopted a series of interventions over the last 8 years. Let us do an assessment of where we are and then determine what ought to be a way forward from now on. I would not be caught up with extreme straitjacket solutions of I want this option or I want that option. Our people are bleeding. That's what matters at the moment. Our economy is building, our society is bleeding, our companies are bleeding, our educational sector is bleeding, our health system is bleeding, our people's psychology, our society is bleeding. We are allowing a level of injustice rising among our community that is only symptomatic of post-conflict societies. It's going to take us decades and decades and decades to readdress that. We are creating a norm, you know. People now know that for you to be able to aerial or house in the south, because you are supposed to prep. We're creating a society of complete anarchy. We're creating a society of complete lawlessness. And it's a leadership failure for us not to be able to speak to ourselves frankly, to say that there's no one that's going to come and solve this problem for us. Now, we cannot fault the regime and fault the rest of the country for where we are, and lack the capability among ourselves to be able to speak truth to ourselves, to say this at some point needs to come to an end. We need to get a conversation that says we have tried this thing for 8 years. Let's put this thing on ice and solve the pressing issues that are on the ground. And that's my argument. My argument is I do not need to be the one to point out the inadequacies of the Ambazonian strategy to the Ambazonians. Its handwriting is clear for everybody to see. There is nothing they can point to say that it's success. There's nothing they can point to say that there is success around the corner. There's nothing about what they have done in the last 8 years or what they're doing now to suggest that there will be a change of course in the next couple of years. But there's everything to point to what our people are paying as a price for their mis-strategy.
Okay.
As much as their intentions are well established out there, nobody mandated them. So this is an opportunity we are saying to say we have afforded you the platform to try out what is it that you thought was best for all of us. We have now all seen the limitations. Thank you very much. Go back to the drawing board. Create space for us to try other solutions. And support in the same way in which people sat back and gave you the space to implement the full length of your thoughts for 8 years. How about you muster some of that support and give it to the political actors on the ground to try and find another solution for the betterment of the well-being of our people? That's the essence of my argument.
Okay.
They do not have an argument to point to why there should be continuity. But they have every argument to say that they need to go back to the drawing board while they support another group of actors that will take up the baton of seeking to improve the lives and the well-being of our people. And that comes by means of active, massive political participation.
Okay, there is this window of opportunity that's mobilizing persons to register now and then decide to vote different persons away from the existing political elites in the Southwest and Northwest region. That's the window of opportunity. Yes. That is, we are tired of these guys. We need to get other guys to try on. And we say, no, we don't want this window of opportunity. We want to fight on. Imagine fighting on in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I think it's not. Are we not going to regret missing out on 2025?
Mr. Leo, if we had followed the counsel given to us, let me put us as Anglophones, earlier, we would not have lost the amount of souls we have registered now. It says teaching time saves 9. If at all they had, as a matter of fact, if we don't take advantage during this election year, 2025, we have 7 other years to still wait. People don't know that this election is seasonal. It's not something that is done every day. So if a new president is elected and we are not actively involved in deciding or shaping the legislative and executive structure of this country within this 2025, we have 7 other years to wait again.
You'll be fighting, eh?
Fighting what?
Oh, the war is ongoing.
Well, let me ask you a question. Is there a fight again?
I don't know.
There is no fight again. You and I know in this nation when there was crisis, almost every single day on social media, you will see somebody has been killed. But they killed one general in January. We are hearing another general being killed in the month of April. People are not even schools are not being intimidated anymore. There is if you ask people who live in the north and say, okay, clear example, the Matazan road was attempted several times to be tarred. But you and I, Matazan has been fully tarred until you can enter Bamenda smoothly. That alone tells you that everything is falling away gradually. So now, when they say they are fighting, who are the people fighting? We used to have names of generals of different locations in those days. Can you tell me the present general of Batibo? Ndian, Bali, Lebialem. Can you tell me any of these generals? They are no longer there. Because when generals were existing in those days, you will hear their names.
No, they say soldier go, soldier come. Maybe they have been replaced. Replaced
how? All the soldiers that went and the other ones that came definitely had replacement. We had their names. Where are they? Nowhere to be found. You used to hear, even if people don't tell you, individual, Bamenda yesterday was totally popcorn everywhere. But now, no popcorn. Everywhere is quiet. Number 2, who are the people sponsoring the war again? Because all those who invested their money, they have given up. War is run by human resource, ammunitions, finances. If these 3 factors are not playing, there is no war. The human resource are all dead. The financial resource, people have forgotten the war and they are frustrated. The ammunitions are no longer there. You hear very scanty information from one angle. It says something happened yesterday around Guzang. Then after 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you hear again something happened against Kondo Titi. 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It tells you the fire has gone down. Places where there were no schools are running there. In 2017, you could not go to school in Womb. 2018. But now, children are writing a GCE results, center number this, GHS, UGHS, Womb, center number this, GHS, Mbengui. Those were centers we did not hear their result in 2017, 2018. But now you hear results from those places. This is to tell you that we have to face the reality. I used to tell people sometimes, you don't win a war. You don't stop a war because you win. Sometimes you stop a war because you want peace. You must not win in a war. Sometimes surrender is victory. You sometimes need to have to reason. People used to fight now, Mr. Leon, in secondary school. People will fight. They will hold your neck like this. You hit the ground. Even in a wrestling bout, when they hold someone at a very strategic position, he hits the ground to tell you that I need to stay alive to fight again. Because if I continue holding on to this thing, I will lose my life. I won't fight the next fight. Yes, they do it every day. So if this thing, we have come to a place where we can't breathe anymore, maybe if George Floyd hit the ground like that is not breathing, he will not have died. But George Floyd also stays, so we should not behave like George Floyd, that we are dying slowly and then we cannot hit the ground. Those people who were defeated in the last match went home, got that energy, came back and won the next match. So let's come back in the battle in another form. This time around with the electoral, the polling stations. Let's see how we can be able to fight at this level and be able to win. There are people who fought in those days, and when they were held, I've seen this, how do they call this, for UCL. People will fight you and they will hold your neck like this.
Wrestling.
He gives up. No wrestling. ULC.
Okay.
That's the fight. You hit the ground and they leave you. The next fight you come, you win. Sometimes to surrender is to secure life for the next fight. It's not just to always want to fight to win. Because what is happening right now is no longer war. What is operating now is arrogance, pride, and self-centeredness.
Okay, I want you to answer to this. Good evening, Mr. Leo. The Apostle, I just want to say that what you guys are saying is really correct. However, the SDF parliamentarians did all they could to push the assembly to discuss and bring concrete solutions to the crisis in the southwest and northwest regions, but were given a deaf ear. They were legal representatives. What guarantees them being heard this time if they come again? He says, my point now, Mr. Leo Donatus Ndo is writing from Ginicom. Yeah, but if I were to read his letter, that is Dr. Gabila's letter to Mark Barretta, is that okay, you get in, if you had one rebar in the past, you get in 20, you get the municipal councillors, all of them, so that they guarantee you the mayors, the senators.
Voice.
Yes.
Weber, first and foremost, was a lone voice. Number two, the SDF parliamentarians only rose up in the parliament when Fundi was kidnapped. That's when they got angry. And they started pressing for the Anglophone crisis to be discussed. Remember, SDF parliamentarians are part of the people who wrote the letter to the US Congress defending what was happening in the country. So when you say SDF parliamentarians rose up yesterday to speak about the issue of the crisis in the parliament, it's a lie. It's a lie. The SDF parliamentarians did nothing of such. They were there and they kept quiet. And that was when we started questioning if the SDF parliamentarians are also part of the regime, because I think as an opposition party, it was in their place to press hard for this Anglophone crisis to be discussed, but it was never discussed and they never brought it up. Number two, the law of Cameroon formed what we call parliamentary group. It takes at least 15 parliamentarians. 15 parliamentarians. The SDF does not have those number of parliamentarians to form a parliamentary group to hold on to a particular point. So the few of them that were there had no voice. Understand the constitution, understand how it operates for you, understand if the SDF even have the number of parliamentarians that can stand as a parliamentary group to press on something. So please, the idea of SDF parliamentarians bringing up the Anglophone crisis in the parliament is a lie. It's a very, very big lie. The SDF started agitating when Fundi was arrested because their chairman was touched. That was when it became a reality that the crisis is not only touching the poor and the innocent masses, it has also touched their main man. That was when they woke up in the parliament. Then I said to myself the last time on this platform, I said, if the SDF could rise up only when Fundi was touched, then they should kidnap Fundi at least 10 times to push them to wake up from slumber.
Yeah, but now he says that they spoke and they were not listened to. What is a guarantee? But the essence here is for greater mobilization.
They spoke, they were not listened to. How can a parliamentarian speak and it's not listened to? The problem is they do not have the number.
Yes, but that's what
we are talking here.
That's what
they do not have the number that can mobilize and press a charge against the parliament.
You get all the senators, you get the MPs,
yes,
you get the mayors, yeah.
So that's what I'm talking that if we mobilize more and have more parliamentarians and senators and they rise like 20 of them, the law gives them the right from 15-member parliamentarians to press charge on something and hold on to it. Just like around the 1970s. We have 50 parliamentarians in the parliament. We have 10 Anglophones. Do you know that the law stated that if the 40 Francophone parliamentarians spoke something and all the 10 Anglophone unanimously refuse against it, it does not stand? It doesn't stand. That's the same thing. If you have 15, a parliamentary group of 15 parliamentarians that stand up and deny something, the rest cannot kick against it. But SDF does not have that number. That's why they were not heard. So it weighs all other political parties down because the ruling party is the one in charge of the parliament. Out of 180 seats, they have at least 150 seats. So it doesn't give the other political parties the leverage to voice out their views. They can only murmur and grumble and speak, but at the end of the day, in the parliament, it's the vote that counts. If they cannot agree on something, they unanimously cast vote on it. How do you expect a parliament where the ruling party has 150 members and they are going for vote? The vote does not come because they will vote their bill out. So it's more of a decree and a kind of monarchical system where the president speaks, his parliamentarians enact it because they have a majority.
Okay, Dr. Gabila, we are looking at elections next year. And are you also already working with some persons to mobilize either for an Anglophone president and identifying some guys that we could project for the people to see the seriousness in what you are advocating for?
And I want to just add also to Apostle Ambe said on the previous question. We need to be politically savvy. We need to demonstrate political maturity and wisdom. And yes, we want to mobilize from within the Anglophone community to be able to find people that are going to speak on our issues. But within the configuration of Cameroon as is, we have to start thinking out of the box to forge political alliances, even within the Francophone community, in such a way that in a mutually beneficial partnership, we can voices of people through political alliances that would speak on our behalf. So numerically and geographically and demographically, we may not have the numbers that it takes to have a majority in parliament, but let us begin to forge political alliances with different segments of the political landscape, with the northerners for the sake of the argument, with the people of littoral, with the people of center, with the people of east. If we take just the northerners and the people of the east and the people of littoral and the people of we can have a common front around the disenfranchised and the marginalized, the excluded and the poor. And we forge a political alliance that says that you raise our issues we have in parliament. So that's the point. I'm talking about political alliances that represent our issues such that we do not only depend on Anglophone parliamentarians to speak for us. We need to be able to raise Anglophone issues to become Anglophone specific issues, but it carries a lot much more strength. If we can get Maurice Kambati to speak on the Anglophone issue, it carries a lot much more strength. If we can get, I think it's Abdoulaye Siddiqui of the North, to say that the people of the North are marginalized, just as the people of the North and the South are marginalized. Who knows? That marginalization of the people of the North and the people of the extreme, the people of the North and the people of the South can give us the reason to form a four-province coalition that says, let's take a block to parliament in Yaoundé. And whenever there are issues to vote on issues of the people of the North and the Southwest give them their votes in the interest of the people of the North, and they reciprocate. Let's think innovatively in terms of the approaches that we adopt to politics. We know that the kind of mobilization that we are talking about is saying that let the Anglophone voice be well represented. But we're also pushing the bar ahead to say, expand political coalitions. Let us look for new innovative people. There are people like Maitre Michel Ndoki. You know, there are people who have proven to be people that speak on Anglophone issues, who from a constituency perspective, for all intents and purposes, comes from the littoral. Why not forge an alliance between, say, Apostle Ambe and Michel Ndoki and Sidiki and, I don't know, Fabrice Lena and Kawala? I mean, I'm just calling names randomly, and maybe one of our people like Christopher Fomuni or Eric Chinjo want to come back. And these are people who, like Akeremuna, are Anglophones but are Cameroonians. When Akeremuna stands to talk, he does not speak as necessarily a man from Bengue, a Mogamo, a Momo man, because he articulates his issues or his views in such a way that the person in Yaoundé relates to him. So the point I'm trying to make is that Anglophone politics needs to transition beyond the days of the brand that was represented by Ni John Frundi, with the very great work that he does, for us to start forming alliances that are broad-based, that are not sharp-cut in terms of their color and their configuration, to be able to articulate. When we get a Michelle Ndoki speak on Anglophone issues, she speaks to a specific constituency within her base that help them to understand what the Anglophone issues are, because she has come to understand it. And I'm thinking that the kinds of political alliances and coalitions that we form moving forward should start on number one, getting our base completely covered so that we get the right people in the right spaces. But we do not stop there. We need to start forming intelligent political alliances. The limit we have had with the people of the regime is that we have always come with one strategy, and they can figure it out, and they come up with a counter strategy. Let us come up with a multi-headed Hydra kind of strategy. They do not know from what direction is going to hit them. Let us forge political alliances with people that are like kindred spirits, like-minded people from different segments of the country, that we can mutually establish agendas and parliamentary agendas by establishing parliamentary groups that speak for their issues and speak for our issues. That's the kind of political mobilization we should do moving forward, covering our base and taking it a step further to establish more intelligent alliances with other segments of the population across the Mongo. And I think that a lot of people who are doing quite a good work in this regard, you know, Apostle Ambe in there and the coalition of civil society are pushing the bar in terms of the thinking process around this. There are lots of political parties that are being reformed internally. The SDF is going through a transformation. The PAP party is preparing itself, and there are lots of other parties that are mobilizing. But as to the actual solution that someone like myself or Apostle Ambe or some of the actors that are working hard in the background are pushing, I think that Mr. Yo, we should make that announcement at the appropriate time.
Okay, we're going to make the announcement at the appropriate time. Yes, Dr. Apostle Ambe, I want you to react to this. This one says, good evening, Mr. Leo. Our problem is that if we surrender, things might get worse the way we are treated. If you see what the military is doing to people in Bamenda, you see that the best way is to continue fighting. Now, I may ask you, if you see Amber boys this way and the military way, where will you run to?
I run to the military.
You run to the military?
Yes.
Yeah, but can you answer this person? Because many persons have this mentality that will...
Read it again to the ear of everyone.
Good evening, Mr. Leo. Our problem is that if we surrender, things might get worse the way we are treated. If you see the way the military is doing to people in Bamenda, you see that the best way is to continue fighting.
What is worse than what has already happened? If you say we'll be treated worse, you are already experiencing the worst there because of what you are saying right now. Do you think the military will act less than what they are doing right now if you surrender? Your action attracted them. That's why you are getting the worst of them. If you surrender, they will retreat because they will go back to the barracks. They will no longer be on that position. So you will no longer face that kind of torture you are experiencing. So if you are experiencing it now that you claim to be fighting, why not try to surrender and see if they will not retreat and go back to where they are supposed to come? Most of the people who are up there are not working there. They were sent there because of the life that came up there. These people were in this country and they did not give you this kind of treatment because you did not provoke them. Now this provocation has brought them there and they are acting this way. Don't you see that it is very wise for you to just say, oh, we stop this thing, let them go back to where they came from? If they go back, you will not see them. And if you don't see them, they will not maltreat you anymore. So what was situation? Is it the children who have died, the school that stopped, the people who said have been cut off? There's no worse thing that will happen again after this crisis that has not already happened. That's happened. Everything worse has happened. So if you say right now the military are maltreating you and you have to keep on fighting, brother, I'm asking that if at all you are treated while fighting like this, why don't you think that if you surrender, things can even reduce? That is the issue. Do you think the government has not gotten its own fair share? The government will not want this story to repeat itself again. I think they have gotten their own fair share of the crisis by this level. No matter what the Anglophones have failed, government also have gotten a pinch of the crisis. Because the people in Yaoundé, Douala, Garou, and Gaoundé, whose children also have died in the military there, and they are crying also. And government has spent so much money in the crisis that they will not want this to repeat itself again.
Yep, but the issue here is, okay, you say the military, what the military is doing. What are the Amber boys? Why are you not also complaining about what the Amber boys are doing?
That's what I'm saying. There's nothing evil that will happen again beyond this. The head that have been beheaded by the Amber people, and even the actors of the military, is what brought them to this situation. If there was no crisis, those regions would not have experienced these things. So if you keep on fighting, you only aggravate and aggravate and aggravate the situation. It's like you are telling me that pouring salt to a wound will make the wound dry.
Yeah, but when he says fighting, continue fighting, you fight where?
For how long? And who is fighting? How much do you have to prolong the war? How much do you have to sustain the war? Where are the ammunitions? Where are the forces? The person who is even saying like that is not fighting. The person who is saying that statement there is not even fighting, but he wants people to fight. And they are saying that let us keep on fighting. That us is other small children who are in the bush, who have just been killed today. Then you are the one pampering them to go and fight. Why don't you get up and go and do this fighting to understand the pain that is in the fighting? That is the problem. Whoever deceived us and bewitched us to even think that keep on fighting where you don't even have the necessary equipment to fight and prolong the war is the only way out is deception of the millennium.
Okay, we are going to be ending at this juncture. We hope the message I went through. Doctor, thank you for accepting to be part of Prime Hour this evening.
Thank you so much, Mr. Leo, and thank you to the televiewers, and my appreciation to Apostle Ambe in the studio. It's a message that we hope it's going to resonate. It's a message that we hope it's going to would have the boldness to be able to address. It's a message that we hope we would gather the courage to be able to address. We need an all-Anglophone conversation. I think that we need to talk to ourselves, we need to find ourselves. And I think that we need to have that voice that emerges from amongst our own to be able to say, let reason prevail, so that we can alleviate the pressure on the masses of our people. So thank you so much for this opportunity, Mr. Leo, and may God bless you and bless your viewers.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, good evening, Mr. Leo. Please help me ask the person who prefers we should continue fighting whom the Amber boys are fighting. Amber boys are fighting civilians, not the military. Thank you for coming, Dr. Apostle Ambe.
Thank you, Mr. Ngo. It's always a joy to be here. We are here to educate our people out of love. There's no strings attached, and we are not taking sides. We're just trying to help our people come out of this dilemma, and lives will return to normalcy again, and we can live again as one people. This time around, fighting something legitimately and with a better approach.
Okay, we want to thank you all who took time off to watch this edition, even to those of you who spent time insulting us. We pray that God should shower love and mercy, grace upon us all, because we are all made in His image. Thank you to the guys at the technical bench, Desmond and Eli, and to you, Tabitha and Bryant, for supervision. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.